An easy way that I usually remember the radians is to remember that in the first quadrant, the radians are always going to be pi over the denominator. And as for the second quadrant, the radians are going to be less than the denominator. And for the third quadrant, it's always going to be one more than the denominator. For the fourth quadrant, which is the last quadrant, your radians are going to be 2 times the denominator, minus 1. Thinking of the unit circle, I usually like to think of the same way I would think of a graph with the quadrants. With the first quadrant being all positives, the second quadrant having a negative x value and a positive y value, with the third quadrant being completely negative, and the fourth quadrant having a positive x value and a negative y value. An example of this would be the coordinate 0, 1. If you were to go to directly under it, you would notice that it is 0, negative 1, showing that the y value had completely changed to a negative. The same could go for the quadrant 1, 0. If you were to move to the right, the left, you would see that the x value is now negative with the y value unchanged. Thinking of the degrees of the unit circle, I like to start at 0 and then work my way up by 30s. From going to 0 to 30 degrees to 60 degrees, up to 90 to 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330, and then back to 360, or the start, which is 0. Now, knowing there are more degrees, I think the medians between each quadrant. So knowing 30 and 60 has a median of 45, I'll then go to 120 and 150, which is 135, to 210 and 240, which is 225, and then to the last quadrant in between 300 and 330, which is 315.